Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Kalen DeBoer, this Alabama program, really doing a nice job in the transfer portal, landing another commitment Friday afternoon, coming from former Penn State safety King Mack. That this was a kid that we talked extensively about coming out of high school as, really being one of my favorite safety prospects in that 2023 cycle. A guy that ran a 10.6 in the 100-meter coming out, a ton of range. Really plays with good instincts. And two things that really pop out to me about this commitment. One, this Alabama secondary is going to be so good over the next couple of years. And yes, we had some question marks going in. I think Kalen DeBoer really doing a good job answering some of those question marks we had about the secondary. But you take a look at just some of the young talent that's in this room. Again, King Mack only going into his second year. You just go out and get Howard from Charlotte, a second-year guy. Then you look at Xavier Brown, Jalen Mbakwe, Xavier Mincy. The amount of talent, the young talent in this Alabama secondary is extremely impressive. Want to get into King Mack, talk a little bit about what he brings to this Alabama defense. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Alabama fans. It's been a blast covering these commitments over the last couple of weeks. I can't thank you guys enough for all the support. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. And without further ado, let's get into King Mack. And want to take you guys back to the high school days with King Mack. This was a guy that played at a powerhouse in St. Thomas Aquinas. More importantly, was extremely impressive coming out of high school. He's one of those guys that couples really good instincts, a guy that just always seemed to be at the right spot at the right time with phenomenal range. Again, he's not necessarily the biggest frame at that safety position, although he filled it out at Penn State. Only 5'10". He more than makes up with it for the range that he has in the back end. And what I think is so special about King Mack is you can do a lot of different things with him, right? I think you can play him as that single high safety, ask him to cover a lot of ground in the back end because of his speed and instincts. But I think this is a guy that also can kind of come and play in the box. He's put some nice weight on coming from Penn State, a guy that I think is kind of a chess piece in this Alabama defense. We know they want to be versatile in terms of how they use these back end defenders. I'm really excited about King Mack. I think he can be a contributor year one for Alabama. And I think you have to give Kalen DeBoer a ton of credit in terms of how he's using the transfer portal. And we talk about this all the time. You see a lot of programs, and we're all thinking of the kind of programs I'm talking about in the sense that they're just taking as many guys as they can, right? And there's not really much of a method to the talent acquisition. You look at Kalen DeBoer, he's going out and getting aggressive in the transfer portal, but it's a very calculated approach. We're not going to take guys that we don't need. We're going to look at our roster, look at our depth chart and say, hey, where do we need to add potentially some starting caliber talent or just maybe a little bit of depth and experience? And I think Alabama probably identified the secondary as being a position they wanted to address. And you take a look at what they've done the last week and a half. They certainly addressed it, right? Going out and getting Cameron Howard from Charlotte, who we did a film deep dive on. I am really excited about Cameron Howard. I think he can be a kind of Malachi Moore kind of guy in this Alabama defense. Then you go out and get a guy in Deshaun Jones who probably doesn't have the upside that a guy like King Mack has at that safety spot. But Deshaun Jones, a cornerback coming from Wake Forest, who has played just a ton of football. You get some experience at the cornerback spot. And then you add another guy in King Mack, who, again, only going into his second year. You start thinking about all the year one, year two talent that's in this Alabama secondary. I think Kalen DeBoer has done really a brilliant job identifying maybe a question mark we have in this Alabama roster and going out and making it happen. You talk about Keon Sabb coming through, Deshaun Jones, Cameron Howard, now King Mack. We had question marks about this Alabama secondary heading into 2024. Kalen DeBoer doing a really good job answering some of those questions. And I'll say this again, King Mack, a guy that we haven't seen a ton of at the college football level yet. I think Alabama fans should certainly be fired up about this one. We'll continue to break down the commitments as they come in. It sounds like Alabama, still a player for a couple names in the portal. We'll keep you guys updated. As always, appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.